So I did a lot of research. I did about 5 years of research and interviewed a lot of people who were there.
You didn't interview me. Well, Mark, I just want you to know I'm wearing one of my original Studio 54 outfits that I went out in. And it's an outfit I still go out in. So there you have it. Thank you. Betsy Johnson, Betsy Johnson. Mark did an absolute fantastic job capturing the entire feeling. And you know what? For me, it was like my life passing in front of me. I was that kid. I was Shane. I was Wendy Fleischman from the Bronx that desperately wanted to escape from where I was and hobnob with the rich, the famous, the celebrities. And I did it for 9 years, every Thursday and Sunday night. And I'm still standing. So what was the thought behind doing this film? Were you one of those Studio 54 kids? What made you want to do it?
Okay, so this sounds bananas, but I'm a fag.
I'm a fag hag, so we're perfect up here together.
Right. No,
Match made in heaven.
No, I'll tell you what. I just remember how exciting disco was. Even in Iowa, as a teenager, disco was exciting. Okay, so extrapolate that to New York Studio 54, which we all dreamed about if you were little baby fags in Iowa or Pennsylvania or whatever. So this was a kind of a thin little script, and they bought it and then continued to work with me to develop it, and they actually had a lot of success with my short films, and as I wrote it and as the short films had success, they actually asked me to direct it, and then they were faced with me.
Dun, 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 dun. No. With this particular cast that you got, they're all well-known names. You've got Neve Campbell, you've got Ryan Philippe, you've got Salma Hayek, and a lot of them were really at the beginnings of their careers. You captured the eye candy of the times.
Well, that was important, and as one critic recently said to me that I'd never really realized, I was just kind of casting for who was right for the role and for who looked right for the role as well, is that they all had this sort of ambition to succeed, and you can see it in their eyes, and it's a sort of thing like Sally Bowles in Cabaret. She like becomes a star before your eyes, both in the movie and in reality, Liza Minnelli, and so Salma sort of had that thing, and Ryan to some degree and all that. So
it all started out so fantastically, and then what happened? You made the movie, and
so the cast became super famous. In fact, I remember waking up to Ryan screaming on the clock radio because I Know What You Did Last Summer was coming out, and I'd be like, Ryan screaming, and it was me. Everyone started getting very famous, and I think the studio thought that there was a lot of money to be made, and maybe this was a little too edgy. I think the whole thought was this movie was ahead of its time, which is why it's out now. And thanks in part to television, which now really embraces the anti-hero and edgy stuff. Now I'm sure you're all watching this movie and you're all thinking like, what's the problem?
What's the big deal, right?
But in 1998, when the film came out, it was a big deal. And to have people who are stars in a film like this, I think it was very confusing. And so, not to me, not to anyone in this room probably, but to test audiences. So anyway, then that all began.
So one of the things I read about your test audience, they test marketed this in a Long Island Mall movie theater. Oh my Lord. Whose idea was that?
Speak to the studio.
Case in point, it's amazing that anything gets made, okay? But the thing that really impressed me from everything that I read about you, they hacked your film to smithereens. They took out all the edgy stuff, okay? They watered it down. This is what Hollywood does all the time. And you did not let it go. You didn't let it go. You didn't let them mess up your vision. How did you move forward and say, this is what I want this film to be? Because we're talking 18 years from when you conceived till now.
People knew that this movie was good, and then they knew that the movie that was released wasn't good. And so that just stayed out there in the zeitgeist, and the great thing about the gay community is we kind of don't let things go.
No,
kind
we
of have a
don't.
memory, you know? And so it played at Outfest at one point around 2007, 2008, and people loved it. And it was ragged, it was, 10 minutes longer than this, it was fat, but it had a life, and it had everything you were talking about.
And they're calling it homoerotic. Can you imagine?
Yeah, so they really, so it just kind of stayed out there in the press, and fortunately, there's the head of Miramax now is this wonderful woman named Zan Devine, who just said, we're going to do this because it's the right thing to do.
You know what? You never lost faith. That's a lesson to be learned here. You're not even a little bitter, are you?
I forget.
We're talking about the research that you did on the movie, and the character, Disco Dottie, I think she was in the movie. Did you know originally there was such a character, Disco Sally, and she would come every week with her 25-year-old Italian gigolo boyfriend, and she would be out there dancing, and she really reminded me very much of the person that you cast in the movie. She was just great.
So Disco Sally actually was a lawyer in Manhattan, one of the first lady lawyers, so she was something. So we had a little poetic license with her, and we made her husband, we made them married, even younger. So Boyd, whose part got clipped a little bit, that really young boy with her, who was dancing with her at the beginning, is her husband, and I think he's 18.
Brilliant.
And the funny thing about, what's great about Ellen, who played, Ellen was such a delight to work with. She's hilarious. She's this tall and her hair was this big. And whenever she walked out on the set, we would all just giggle. She was so delightful. She was such a sweet soul, super innocent. She was 84 when we shot this. And she has her
Isn't that
line.
amazing?
She has her line. There's a line in here which now is probably not very shocking, but at the time was super shocking, which was "Merry Christmas, you cunts," right? And she came up
Love
to
that
me.
line.
She came up to me and she said, "Mark, what is that word?" And I said, ask your husband. Well, no, not like that. Not like that. No, it's just that her husband was very protective of her. And so...
Questions.
Thank you.
Back over there, I see a hand. Yes.
What was the inspiration for casting Michael Myers in that role?
God, it was brilliant.
Well, that was the big thing. Like, the movie was really like, it was a flashing green light because we had, everyone was happy with the prep and the cast and the script and all, but we still didn't have the plum roll, which was a plum roll on the page. And then Mike came to us. So that script had been going around town, and so his manager called Miramax, and they asked me what I would think about it, and I thought, comedians are great tragedians. Is that the word? They're great with tragedy. So I thought he'd be perfect, so I watched every little bit of film and TV I could see on him, and then I had a really nice meeting with him, and he said to me, Mark, I got 3 weeks of rehearsal with all these guys, and he said, I'm going to start off really badly, but trust me, I'll get there. And I thought, yeah. And he came in the first day, and he was right. But it really came together when he finally had all of his prosthetics on, and he walked on the set that day, and he was Stevie.
Now, had he ever met Stevie? Had you ever met Stevie? Because he was as depraved as you depicted him in the film. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. No, and the one thing that...
Oh, you're so welcome. You've done good.
So the one thing about Stevie that I would say that I saw from seeing what I did see was that he was depraved and all that, but he was also kind of athletic and sexy. And so Mike never really got that, but Mike brought another side to it. And it's like Mike's never going to have those qualities. So
he did a great job. Questions? Any more questions? Right
Thank
here.
you, though. Thank you very much.
Did I see Donald Trump in the credits?
We did.
Yes, we
You
Yes.
did.
We did.
And Newsweek has been on the horn with me constantly for a week about this. And we can't find the footage.
Oh no.
It has vanished. But I will tell you this, as I said to them, we had lunch, which was actually late at like midnight because it was a night shoot. And so we had lunch, and all I remember was that Donald enjoyed the ladies 2 at a time.
There you go. A groper then, a groper now.
And my DP and I remember it well. It was like an image in my head.
What do you?
And so I told them that, and then the next 2 days later, that tape came out, and they were like, all over me, and I'm like, I'm not saying anything else. It's what I remember. So.
I had a friend also that worked on the film. Bill Milling was one of your production guys.
Oh.
Very old friend. There he was, up there. I wrote a chapter about him in my book.
Cool.
But I'm not going to tell you what it is, because it's dirty.
I'm just glad the movie's out. It's kind of great. I like the movie now. So.
Well, we're glad the movie's out too. And we don't even need a Studio 54 reunion, because right here, right now, on the stage at the Milford Theater, we are going to have our very own Studio 54 party. So please, everybody stay around and please dance with us. Thank you all.
All right, thank you so much. Great.
Well, everyone was saying to me, was it really like that? Yes, it was.